Hey guys, welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. Had to check my equipment here. It's great to be here. It's snowing. It's snowing here. We don't get much snow in Arkansas, but this has been a pretty cold winter. Damn you, Greta Thunberg, and all you green people, you're making it too cold here. We're getting snow, and when you get snow where I live, that means you could get power outages because the infrastructure is not really built here for a lot of snow. So hopefully I will remain going. I won't have a power outage. But if I poof disappear, that's the reason. But so far, so good. The power's running. Hopefully it stays that way. It's supposed to get really cold, get down to around 0 Fahrenheit. So really some bitter weather. In Fayetteville and Northwest Arkansas, they've closed most of the schools in preparation for the storm. And they don't get a lot of snow around here. It's not like when I lived in Michigan or Colorado. They're kind of used to it. Here, they just get a little bit of snow. It's a panic. So they're in a panic here. Everyone's in a panic. I'm not. I'm cozy. I just hope my power stays on. But it's great to be here. And if you're new to the show, welcome. We do this show Monday through Friday. On Monday through Thursday, we do the show at 11 a.m. Central, and we stream on YouTube and on Rumble and on X. And as always, please like and subscribe. If you haven't, follow me on X. I do appreciate it. And then on Tuesday nights, if you're a member of my roundtable, that's tonight. So that's tonight. God willing, I don't have a power outage. We will have our roundtable. We'll probably talk about the P still. And let me just send it to you so you guys can sign up if you haven't already. And you can be part. It's my Substack. And again, with my Substack, you get exclusive content on Fridays. You can watch or be part of the roundtable on Tuesday evenings. And I really do appreciate it. Now, there's also a free option on Substack that you can just sign up for. And every morning, first thing in the morning, I do like a column or an essay I publish. So check that out. Might as well. There's no cost to it. And just as a reminder, what I used to be on Gumroad as my primary platform, which I love all you people. But by the end of the month, I'll be totally migrated off to Substack just because Substack is a better tool. It's more robust. Gumroad, I liked it, but it started to have technical problems, not just with me, but with other people. Emails weren't going out. Then they had a problem with PayPal. It's just Gumroad has their issues. And so I decided to make the migration. So thank you for everyone that has migrated over. And if you're still on Gumroad, I will put out the links to the roundtables until the end of the month. But then it'll be just in a steady state mode. I mean, if you want to stay on Gumroad just to support me, thanks. But I highly encourage, head on over to Substack, and I put the link below. And Wednesday night, tomorrow night, I am so excited. One of my favorite commentators, personally, I read him every day, Z-Man. We're going to start doing a show together every Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. I haven't thought of a title of the show, so if you guys have any ideas, let me know. Maybe I'll have a poll on X. I don't want it to be Happy Homelands. Happy Homelands, I enjoy it, but it seems to be cursed for everyone that's on my host. You had Tina Veek, poor girl, bless her soul. She died. She had a heart issue at the age of 37. Then you had Styx. He ended up getting arrested in New Orleans. You had Sasha. She ended up getting married to me. So, like, a bad fate awaits anyone that gets on Happy Homelands. And Alicia was sweet. Nothing happened wrong with her, but it just didn't really work out. So, I don't know. I'm going to think of a new branding. But if you have ideas, let me know. But that's going to be fun. We're going to keep it just to an hour. And Z-Man, you want to hear his commentary. He's a real sharp guy. And we connect well. I first met him at American Renaissance. I guess it'd be last November when we had it. And it was so great. I mean, we just connected. I knew we would. We really think a lot of the same. We're about the same age. He's a few years younger, but we're from the same era. And we have the same philosophical outlook. He was in business for years. So was I. Yeah, I'm not one of these, the modern commentators. They've never worked a job in their life. We've both been in the business world. And so I think that gives us a perspective. But I'm looking forward to that. So that's Wednesday nights. And then on, Friday nights, we have the Ramsey Paul show at 8 p.m. And that's a fun show. I have an open caller. And then usually it's been on Sunday, Sasha and I have been doing Night Owls. Night Owls is kind of our ad hoc show. That's just for fun, whatever. And as always, if you want to help part of the show here, I really appreciate it. YouTube has Super Chats. Rumble has rants. Powerchats is something you can connect here. And Stream Elements has a tip feature. All right, we'll get into this here. And obviously, the big story is the negotiations in Saudi Arabia. And I'll just talk about it first before we look at some of the stories here. But I think there's been somewhat of a misunderstanding in the media. They haven't reported on it correctly for the most part. Trump, he's got a big vision, and I think Putin does too. And Putin did previously, that Ukraine is an important issue, but it's not the only issue. All right. Russia and the United States needs to somehow get along and define their boundaries, their view of the world. There's three major superpowers now in the world: the United States, Russia, and China. I'm sorry, UK and Europe. I love you guys, but you're no longer powers. It's just a fact. And I'll get into that too. I think Trump and JD Vance, when they talk to Europe, it's not that they hate Europeans or they hate. I think they have a love for those countries. I understand it because Donald Trump, JD Vance, myself, our roots are in Europe. That's where our people came from. We look at you as our people in a sense. Same with Canadians too. Real Canadians, not, the Indian immigrants, but the real Canadians, the real Europeans. We have sort of a kinship with you. And it's like if you have a family member that ends up like a drug addict or just laying around the house shooting up heroin, eventually you have to kick them out. It's not because you hate them. In fact, you love them. You want them to stand on their own 2 feet. But it's like become real codependent. They're on your couch shooting up heroin and you're giving them money. And you're not doing them favors, giving them money. You're just encouraging that behavior. So Europe has become, for the last, ever since World War II, really, ironically, we got to save Europe. It destroyed Europe. It's been a basket case, really. Europe is no longer the key continent in the world. It used to be Europe, going back to the Romans in ancient Greece, and they were the center. Then you had all of Europe. Europe was the hub primarily, until you go like maybe 10,000 years ago. But Europe has always been the center of civilization, the powerhouse. And we saw that even through, the first part of the 20th century was Britain. Britain spread civilization around the world, and France was a huge power. Even Russia was, to a lesser extent. Germany obviously was. And so it's sad to see the state Europe has become ever since World War II. And yeah, part of it you could blame the United States. I don't doubt that. But Europe has become very weak. It's become very stagnant. It's not really advanced. It's like behind China in technology, America, even Russia. The economies are stagnant. There's like no sense of vision for Europe. You have no sense of pride in your people. And I'm not saying all Europeans, there's a lot of Europeans that watch the show. I love you. But as a whole, you're like, oh, what are you guys about? Just bringing in immigrants to attack your children and arrest people that object? Is that what you're about? And pushing homosexuality? Do you have nothing else that that you don't have any other meaning for your people? And it just seems Europe's in a real sad state. People very depressed. And I think America under Trump and with J.D. Vance and others are trying to get Europe and even Canada to become more independent and stand up on your own. So it's a little bit of tough love that's happening here. And again, it's not because I don't think Trump hates Europe or Canada. I really think they have a love, and so does J.D. Vance. It's that you guys have ended up in such a sad state, such a pathetic state. And we'll see this, where Germany, they take lead in arresting everyone if you say something they don't like. They ban political parties. You're in UK, if you pray even silently, you can end up arrested. It's like, how in the hell did you guys end up in this? What happened? I mean, something's gone off the rails. And J.D. Vance had to give that speech in Munich, not because he hates you guys. It's just like something's really gone wrong with you. And believe me, the United States has issues too, but that's an issue. Generous donation from Killicomedy for Mommy. Killicomedy goes way back. Going to feed the Canadians knuckle sandwiches and tariffs this Thursday in Boston. Yeah. The American hockey team plays, I guess, Canada again. They have that NHL All-Star tournament, I guess. It's been very popular. And the United States, I believe, won the first game in Montreal. And there was all these fights, and there's never fights in All-Star games, so they're taking it seriously. And again, Canada, I have a lot of Canadian viewers. I love Canadians, real Canadians, not the ones that have, immigrated over from Pakistan, but the real Canadians. I love you guys. We've always loved Canadians. But it's sad how you guys have become too. And, just how dispirited, hate your, the whole church burning and trying to eliminate white Canadians. It's really pathetic. And I hope that can turn around. So I really think part of the whole negotiating ploy that Trump's doing, there's many layers to it. And one layer is not really stated, but is trying to kick Europe and Canada, or what we would call the Anglosphere, and I would include Australia and New Zealand, in the ass and saying, what the fuck are you people doing? You got to start protecting your borders. You can't celebrate immigrants coming in, slaughtering your kids. Oh, we can't say anything because this Islamophobia. Oh, we're going to arrest anyone that protested. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Stop that. And I think that's what Trump's trying to do. And secretly, it may be working a little bit. I've seen a lot of pro-Canada spirit now. Great. I think that's good. I think we're seeing some nationalism in Europe. So if we need to be kind of the bullies to get you guys to get some nationalism, so be it. Because we know it's safe to attack us back because we're not going to do anything. I mean, for example, you can't attack any Muslim country because I'd be Islamophobic. Obviously, you can't, attack God's all-stars. Oh, they. So you got to have a safe target. But if we can be that safe target to try to spur you on, I think that's a good thing. So I do think that's a layer, really, really what's happening here. And a lot of things I've heard from Europe, like, oh, okay, we don't need you, America. We'll form our own NATO. We'll form our own army. We'll have our own policy. And we're like, yeah, finally. It's like a kid, well, not a kid, let's say your teenage kid that has stayed in your house. He's no longer a teenager. He's in his late 20s. He just drinks all day and watches TV or plays games. And now he's like, damn it, I'm tired of your rules, Mom and Dad. I'm going to live on my own. And you're like, oh, no, don't do that. Obviously, you're like, yeah, do it. And that's what we're trying to do with Europe. So, yeah, Europe. Kick Yankees out. Kick us Yankees out. If that makes you feel better, we're all for that. Get your own identity. Be proud of your own people. Be proud of being British. Be proud of being French. And if that requires you to say, fuck you, Americans, it's actually okay. We're happy with that. It gives you some, because I know you're so beaten down. You're scared of offending Muslims or Jews or homosexuals or God knows who else. And you can safely attack us. Okay, just get some of your spirit back. I think that's what Trump's trying to do. You guys are like beaten dogs. It's really pathetic because you should have pride in your heritage. Yeah, Western Europe created Western civilization around the world. You guys should be thankful. But you've been under a lot of propaganda since World War II, and we know why, but it's time to break that propaganda, especially J.D. Vance said that, Elon Musk said that, Germany's got to get over that. I know you've been under certain control by alien forces, but you got to break free from that. And it's okay to be German. It really is okay to be German. You don't have to apologize. It's okay to be British. You can fly your British flag. And you should be able to fly it without getting arrested in Britain. I think you could be arrested in Britain flying the British flag. It's so bizarre. You got to get over that. So I think that's a little bit about what Trump and Vance are trying to do, at least how I'm reading it. Although that's not the stated purpose, but I'm seeing that a little bit. So And I even try to do that a little bit too. I try to make fun of the British and the Europeans to try to get them mad to stand up for themselves. But that's what we want because we love you and we want you to do well because you're our people. We don't want you to see you this and this. You're like, our children. We don't want to see you in a pathetic state. Or I guess we'd be your children technically because we came from you, but it's just sad the state you're in. So come on, reinvent yourself. Make Europe great again. Make Europe great again. And that means getting rid of the girl bosses, the weirdos like Macron, these soy Germans. You just gotta clear house from a lot of these people. And I think you'll be a lot better off if you do that. All right. So that I think is a hidden agenda of the Trump, what he's doing. But Trump is showing like, okay, I'm here to represent the American people. And I know this is kind of outrageous that a president should care about his people first. I know that sounds like mustache man, but it's a good thing. Government should care about their people. I know it sounds radical. Like in Britain, your government should care about the British people before Pakistanis flooding in. I know, radical, but that's really what it should be. In Germany, you guys should care about the German people. So Trump cares about the American people and he wants the best deal for the American people. And I think he would think you guys should have the same feeling about your nation. So, but nevertheless, Trump's like, I can't control what you guys do. That's up to you. But I'm going to try to take care of my people. And Ukraine is a bad deal. And being in conflict with Russia is a bad deal. There's no reason for it. Russia has no plans of taking over the world. I mean, get over yourself. Quit trying to repeat the World War II propaganda. It wasn't even true in World War II. Hitler didn't want to take over the world or Europe or anything like that. Hitler wanted a deal right away with England, so it was all bullshit anyway. But that myth continues on, and they've continued on now. Every enemy we have, we claim they want to take over the world. It's just ridiculous. Russia in the Ukraine, they had territorial disputes, a lot of history there. I'm not going to go over it all, but it wasn't just out of nothing. There was reasons for it. And as part of being adults, and we're seeing now adults back in charge, men back in charge, is really nice to see. Dealing with other serious men in a non-hysterical fashion, they're actually now having dialogue. And that used to be considered a good thing. Instead of instead of war, let's do jaw, meaning let's talk. And that's the first step that happened in Saudi Arabia was that the United States and Russia have agreed that they will open diplomatic conversations. They never should have closed. You always need lines of communications open, and that has happened. And I think Trump is looking at things like, well, this is bigger than Ukraine. Why should we be an enemy with Russia or China? We should all be able to get along. Now, that doesn't mean they're able to screw us in trade deals, looking at you, China. But Trump wants what's best for the American people. And that includes trade. And this whole business for Russia with the tariffs and sanctions, yes, has hurt the Russian people and Russia somewhat, but it's also hurting us. And that came in the negotiations. So I think Trump wants to normalize relations with Russia and China. And Europe, they can have their tantrums. They can, like that one pussy, start crying about peace. But you just have to man up. I mean, Europe, get off your, I know you're having the vapors and you need the fainting couch. And you have these women crying and screaming. You got to get over that. We're moving forward in the real world and we're developing a new way of looking at things. And he doesn't see Trump, Ukraine. He looks at it as like a runaway project. If you're in business sometimes, maybe a lot of these leaders have never been businessmen, but if you have a project, you heard the term Project Ukraine, that just starts to spiral out of control. It's a money loser and billions upon billions upon billions and nothing's happening except a lot of death. And Trump's like, yeah, we're wrapping this up. We're not pissing any money down the sinkhole. That needs to be wrapped up. We're going to try to, as part of our normalization with Russia, we're going to bring at least an American end to the war in Ukraine. Now, Europe or, the UK, Starmer was talking about he wants to send British troops to Ukraine, which mean British deaths. I think Trump's position is I think that's foolish. But if you want to do that, I guess go for it. But we are disengaging from this money loser project. It doesn't benefit the American people one iota. We're wasting a lot of money on it. We don't have the money to waste anymore. And from a morality point of view, we hate to see all the millions have died. For what? It's ridiculous. We're not going to be party to this. Now, if you guys want to act all tough and continue this war, you can do it without us. Of course, Europe's like, yeah, but we don't have any real military. We don't have any real manufacturing. We had to give up all our manufacturing to please the green god. Mother Earth was mad at us, so we had to get rid of our manufacturing. And Trump's like, yeah, well, I guess it sucks to be you. Maybe you shouldn't have got so weak. Maybe you shouldn't have been such bitches. Maybe you need to bring back in your manufacturing. That was the message again. With all this is coordinated. J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth said, guys, in Europe, you can make all these proclamations. No one gives a shit. What matters is tanks, aircraft, missiles, drones. Your fucking proclamations and your tears don't mean shit. Don't mean shit. And places like Germany trying to deindustrialize because of this climate change hoax, you're just fucked in the head. You need to stop that. You need to grow up. You need to bring back your industry. You need to make Germany great again. Same with Britain. And that was the message from Pete Hegseth. That was the message from J.D. Vance. I think that's the message from Donald Trump. So Europe, you got to get your act together. You got to drop this climate change nonsense. You got to act like adults. You got to start controlling your borders. You got to stop making excuses, bringing in savages to murder your children. You need to stop arresting old people because they object to their children being killed. You need to get your shit together. And we're getting tired of putting up with your nonsense. It's really pathetic and objectionable. And if you want to continue, I guess that's up to you, but we're not going to be party to it. And you don't have any factories or you don't have any weapons or army because you all became pussies. Well, tough shit. I guess that's reality. And so that's the situation it is now. And in France, these pathetic losers, they had a Macron in Britain and that girl boss Ursula or whatever. I didn't even know. I thought she was some girl to get them coffee, but I guess she considers herself a girl boss over there. They had their own little meeting. It was like at a kiddie table. It's like, who cares? In France and Paris, no one gave a shit. It was so pathetic. In fact, someone called it that. It's like, at least in America and big events, I don't know if you guys in Europe, Canada do this, but like in a big Thanksgiving, you have the table where the adults are at. And if there's children, you have the kids table, right? And it was like they had their little kids table. They can do whatever they want. I don't know what they're negotiating because what they think is irrelevant, but whatever, if it makes them happy. It was pathetic. But the adults were in Saudi Arabia negotiating. I guess Zelensky was in the UAE, United Emirates Republic, and he was supposedly transferring money and stuff because I think one of the conditions for Ukraine is that they're going to have elections. And I know Europe, they consider elections to be anti-democratic. Like free speech is anti-democratic. Holding elections is anti-democratic. They're so bizarre. But Zelensky, he's not elected. He's a dictator. And we're like, yeah, no, you're going to have an election. And he's like, well, I'm going to lose. I'm like, yeah, it sucks to be you. So Zelensky, unless he's stupid, he doesn't want to end up like Ceausescu did in Romania in December of 1989, which could be his fate. So I think he's taken a lot of the money he stole from you, dear viewer, and he's wiring it to some bank accounts. And him and his wife will probably be fleeing the country. That's a likely scenario. Or he will be strung up. That's another scenario. So I don't think he wants that scenario. So he's probably going to get the hell out. So elections are going to be coming. So that means Zelensky's not going to sign any deal anyway. And so that's kind of the state right now of what has happened. And we'll go over some of these stories here. Give you my commentary on them. We kind of talk through it. Wow. Rubio reported that Russia and the U.S. agreed to restore embassy staff in Moscow and Washington. Yeah, that was stupid to get rid of that in the first place. Again, you don't have to agree with someone to open dialogue and discuss with them. This should have been always in place anyway. So I think this is an important first step. And the first meeting they had yesterday wasn't so much about Ukraine again. It was more about the process of how Russia and the United States can continue to talk. So we got to kind of tap the brakes a little bit on things. Supposedly, this is a leaked peace agreement. And whenever something like this, I mean, really, this is so high level. I don't know really what's leaked about it. I think more of this is common sense. And I don't even think it was really leaked. Either they're guessing or it was leaked, meaning in quotes that they on purpose gave it to the press just to get, throw it out there so people know what to expect. But this is a 3-stage peace plan. The first thing is supposedly the United States wants a ceasefire. That would be good. Russia is always opposed this, a couple of reasons. One reason is the reality Russia is winning. They're advancing every day. So why should they have a ceasefire, right? It's like you're playing a game of football and you're winning. Why should you just call off the game? Or you're playing a game of chess and you have the material, your opponent has the material edge and you're like, hey, why don't we just call this a draw? He's like, why should I? I'm winning. So that's the problem. Another issue from Russia's point of view is they don't want a ceasefire. They would see the ceasefire as just a cynical way for Ukraine to regroup and to get rearmed and to, get maybe build back up some new fortifications or whatever. And then the war would continue. So, no, you don't get to get called timeout when you're losing. At least not in a war. And they see this as, no, timeout, we're losing, timeout. Let's give us some time so we can regroup. And Russia doesn't want to do that, understandably. So that's going to be a tough thing. But at the same time, I'm not as cynical as some people. I do think Putin does want some deal. I really do. And I think Trump does too. Because there's a thing in business or deal making. If you don't think there's any chance of a deal, you're not going to waste your time, right? And they put out feelers, and I'm sure Trump did, even before he had his call with Putin, they put out feelers like, okay, can we come to an agreement maybe here? Or how far apart are we? And if the answer was, no, there's just no way, we're too far apart, then, there wouldn't be any of these negotiations because what's the point? So I think Trump believes, and even Putin believes, that there can be something reached. And maybe there can be a ceasefire, but the United States will have to make some concessions. For example, I would imagine if I was president, I would say, okay, we hear your concerns, Russia. What we'll do is if you agree to a ceasefire, we will agree to stop all military aid to Ukraine during the ceasefire. So we're not going to send them more weapons just to rearm and to, build new defenses or whatever during the ceasefire. So the United States will have to come with a condition like that. Number 2, elections in Ukraine. Trump ready to accept any result. Well, they know Zelensky's going to lose. He's not popular in Ukraine. He's a dictator. And that's key for Russia because Russia has already said Zelensky's not legitimate. They're not going to negotiate with him. And Zelensky himself put it in like their constitution that Ukraine's not allowed to negotiate with Russia. So what can they do? Zelensky, he is not going to be around much longer. He's just not. Unless Zelensky's totally stupid. And I don't think he is. I think he's paving his way, trying to get as much loot, your money, out as he can to secret bank accounts so they can hightail it out of there. 3, final deal. Yeah, well, the deal is, that's going to be really tricky too. I mean, the devil in the details. Russia doesn't want to give up the eastern Ukraine because they consider that their territory. Obviously, Crimea is off the table. They consider that. But how about a city like Odessa? Russia considers that rightfully theirs, is currently under Ukrainian control. Will Ukraine be willing to give that up as part of a peace agreement? There's going to be a lot of details here that are going to make this very difficult, because there's always that part of the issue, and that's why the negotiations go back and forth, is Russia may see that Trump wants out of this no matter what. And if Trump stops aid to Ukraine, Russia could get the whole thing. They could get all of Ukraine if they wanted it. And so Russia could think, well, no matter what, why should we deal to something less when even if we refuse all deals, Trump is just going to wash his hands of this nonsense, and then we could get it all. So that's a challenge there too. But on the other hand, I do think legitimately Putin would like sanctions to be dropped. I do think he would like better relations for the United States and Russia. I think that would be in Russia's interest and the world, because despite the propaganda, Putin isn't Hitler, Trump's not Hitler, Trump is Trump, Putin's Putin. And Putin, even in Russia, he's not really a super hawk. I know a lot of people, he has that impression, but he really isn't. He's fairly moderate over there. And I do think he would come up with some sort of deal. And I think how it will be positioned, because Europe and Zelensky says he wants to accept a deal like this, then Trump will say, well, okay, we tried. You do what you're going to do. We're restoring relations with Russia, so we're going to remove sanctions. We're going to have good relations with Russia, as long as they don't do anything that harms our interest. And Europe and Zelensky, you have fun doing what you want on your own, but we're not going to be a part of it. And unless they're really stupid in Europe and Ukraine, they understand there's no avenue for them to be successful. Ukraine will quickly buckle. We could be seeing the Ukrainian army buckle even now. I don't know how much this is true, but it looks like they're giving up more territory quicker, which kind of makes sense because it's got to be demoralizing if you're a Ukrainian soldier. Why do you want to die for a war that is going to end soon anyway? What's the point? Why give your life for that, right? So give your life for Mother Ukraine when there's going to be a negotiated settlement one way or the other soon. You don't want to do that. You're not going to risk yourself. So when the Russians come, I don't blame them. So the same people, soldiers that would have fought to the death maybe a couple of years ago, are going to say, it's just not worth it. It's not going to make any difference. So we'll start to see, I think, the morale really start to hit the front on the Ukrainian side, and they could start breaking pretty quick there. We will see, but that is the situation here. All right, let's take a look at the Rubio was over there negotiating, and let's listen to some of his clips here.
First next step is walk you through the next step is multi-track. The first next step is working through our respective teams at the diplomatic side just to ensure that our diplomatic missions can function. There's been a series of reciprocal actions taken over the last 10 years that have really diminished our ability to operate in Moscow, as an example, and they would argue their ability to operate in Washington. We're going to need to have vibrant diplomatic missions that are able to function normally in order to be able to continue these conduits. The second is a high-level team, including those who are experts on these topics, the technical side, to begin to engage with their side on parameters of what an end to this conflict would look like.
So if you listen to Rubio, the volume's a little low on this, but he said the first thing they did, which was yesterday, was to reopen the dialogue. So the embassies will be reopened and Russia and the United States will be talking to each other, which is a good thing. And he's saying the second thing is they're going to have another team work with the Russians of like, okay, how can we hammer out something in Ukraine, the technical details? Because on a high level, it's always easy on a high level. I mean, that so-called peace plan is kind of a joke. It's so high level. It's like, duh. So the specifics are going to be hard, though. Like, is Odessa part of Ukraine? Is a part of Russia? Does Russia keep all their territories in the Donbass? What's the situation with Ukraine? Are they allowed to keep an army, or do they need to demilitarize? One of the things Putin has always said, the reasons for why they invaded Ukraine was to denazify Ukraine. And as Tucker Carlson said to Putin, and I think this is legitimate, it's like, what the hell do you mean by that? The Nazi Party hasn't been around since 1945. What are you talking about? Well, but they have the attitudes of the Nazis. It's like, what do you mean exactly? I mean, Zelensky's Jewish. I mean, what are you talking about? And so that term is very vague. What do you mean about denazification? Obviously, Zelensky's got to go, and he's going to be going. I think the Americans and the Russians agree with that. But will the Russians work with whoever the new Ukrainian leader is? Will that suffice? Will Ukraine be allowed to keep an army? Will they tolerate? Already, Russia says they're not going to tolerate like British troops in Ukraine or other troops in Ukraine. So what will that look like? Peacekeeping troops, and Donald Trump wants to be paid back because we pissed away all this money in Ukraine. Some of it went to Ukraine. Some of it was fraud, went to the drug cartels. Trump is like, hey, bitch, we want our money back. We want our money back, bitch. Well, we don't have it. Well, okay, we're going to repo your rare earth minerals in. The problem with that is those rare earth minerals, at least a majority of them, are now controlled by the Russians. So I could see Trump, because Trump's a money guy, saying a deal with the Russians. We want some of those minerals because we paid these deadbeats and we want to get some of our money back. So this is, all these details are going to be very complicated to work out. And the thing is, can you have a ceasefire while you work out these details? Russia has always said, no, we don't want a ceasefire because why would we? We're winning. And if there's a ceasefire, you'll just use that time to rearm Ukraine.
And on that front, obviously, there's going to be engagement and consultation with Ukraine, with our partners in Europe and others. But ultimately, the Russian side will be indispensable to this effort, and so that process will begin. And then the third is, together with those other two, is beginning to engage in identifying the extraordinary opportunities that exist should this conflict come to a acceptable end, the credible opportunities that exist to partner with the Russians.
All right, this is the carrot. Just so you understand the negotiations. In a lot of negotiations, you have the carrot and the stick. This is not new, as everyone knows this, but you say, hey, we want you to agree with this. If you agree with us, here's a reward. If you don't agree with us, bad things are going to happen. A little bit of this already has happened. Like Trump wants the end of this war, and he definitely is not going to tolerate Russia taking over all of Ukraine. And he's already said that, like, oh no, I will have a problem. I'm telling you, a huge problem if that's what Russia wants. So that's off the table. So Trump wants the end of this. Otherwise, he can bring a lot of problems to Russia. That's the stick. But then the carrot now is, hey, once you agree to something, we can be buddies and we can have some great economic agreements.
Geopolitically, on issues of common interest, and frankly, economically, on issues that hopefully will be good for the world and will also improve our relations in the long term between these two important countries. So all three of those efforts will be happening in conjunction with one another. Obviously, the diplomatic one is one we hope to move pretty quickly on because this involves the treatment of our respective missions. The second one will be difficult, which is the question of Ukraine and the end of that conflict. But I think that's essential in order for the third piece to even be possible, which is our ability to work together on other geopolitical matters of common interest, and of course, some pretty unique, potentially historic economic partnerships as well.
All right. So he said, in order for Russia to get the economic benefits from the United States, you need to work on ending the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's pretty obvious. That's what's been said there. We'll see if that's what happens. But that is the Americans' approach right now. And Rubio, hopefully this will be a little louder. I'm sorry that it doesn't seem very loud, but I can't control that. It's just how it is working here. Let me pull it up all the way. Here's another one. Let's watch some more comments from Rubio.
I'm not going to negotiate or talk through every element of the disruptions that exist or have existed in our diplomatic relations and the mechanics of it. Suffice it to say that President Trump has pledged and intends to keep his promise to do everything he can to bring an end to this conflict. We cannot do that unless we have at least some normalcy in the way our diplomatic missions operate.
This is so Rubio saying Trump wants to end the conflict, and we can't end the conflict. The first thing we need to do is establish diplomatic ties with Russia so we can talk. Otherwise, we can't end the conflict. So that makes a lot of sense. So yesterday, or today, I guess, earlier today, they met in Saudi Arabia, and they worked out that part.
In Moscow and in Washington, D.C., and so we need to work to improve that, and we're going to work with them to see what's possible within that context.
Does that include removing Lavrov from rescinding sanctions that have been imposed?
This is, he said, the reporter, does this mean removing sanctions?
Not at that level of conversation yet, but there'll be a number of topics that'll have to be discussed along the way. We haven't even begun that process. Today was just an agreement to begin a process to talk about those things.
So there wasn't any agreement about removing sanctions or anything like that. He said that their first day was just an agreement that they would decide to talk with each other. And so that's a step. That's a step. And that is what's going to happen here. Here's some of the... some more analysis. I think from a Russian negotiator. He speaks pretty good English, this guy. Here we go.
Important to build bridges. I think U.S.-Russia relations are very important for the world. Yeah. I think it's very important that U.S.-Russia cooperate together and jointly we can solve problems.
But when you say better relations and better cooperation, isn't what you really want the lifting of sanctions on Russia? There's lots of them.
No, not at all. I think what's very important for us... No, I think what we want is good dialogue. Actually, it's U.S. businesses who lost $300 billion from leaving Russia.
All right. Russia, they're taking a interesting stance. They're fairly smart. They understand Trump, what's interest Trump. Trump is all about money. He really is. And money makes a difference. But he always looks at that. He's always looking at, are we getting a good deal? He's always been that way, even his first term. Like, we're being screwed. We're getting screwed on these deals. He's always on that. And I think the Russians know it. So they're bringing up, American businesses are being hurt because of these sanctions, which is a smart way to go. From a Russian point of view, that's smart. They're coming to America saying, this is hurting you guys too. You're losing $300 billion. You want to make America great again? Yeah, this is a way you can do it. So that was a smart pivot that the Russians did there.
So I think it's very important that by not working together, U.S. economies having big toll, $300 billion have been lost by U.S. businesses. Well, yes, we had some meetings with Trump team members, and all I can say is that they're great problem solvers. And I think President Trump is a great problem solver, and also his team is a team of great problem solvers.
So again, this is the negotiating tactic. He's complimenting Trump, and Trump does have an ego, likes to be complimented, and I'm sure the Russians know that on the profile of Trump, that it's everyone, no one likes to be insulted, and people like to be complimented, but I think Trump a little more than other people, and they understand that.
Has that team promised you here?
No, I think the promise is let's have dialogue. Let's figure out the best solution for our countries, for other countries, for the global community.
So they set the expectations. At least the first meeting that was held earlier today wasn't about solving or ending the Ukrainian war, at least initially. It was just let's get together and discuss things so we can start a process. And a lot of what the American side is saying is, and again, the Americans are smart too, because they're using a lot of the Russian language. It's this, both sides are pretty good about this. And walls, there needs to be a permanent end, not a temporary end to the war. And Trump is determined to move very quickly on Ukraine. The first point here needs to be permanent end, not a temporary end. that is exactly reflecting what Putin has said previously. Because Putin's always said, I don't want some ceasefire for a year or two, and then we have another war in 2 years or 3 years. We need to figure this out totally now. And now Waltz is saying the exact same thing back to the Russians. Oh, we don't want anything temporary. We want a permanent settlement. So again, that's smart. You're hearing what the other side is saying, and you're kind of repeating that back to them. Russia did the same thing with America about the money. And the second thing is Trump is determined to move very quickly on Ukraine. This could be a little different. I don't know. Again, I don't think Russia's necessarily in such a hurry, mostly because they're winning the war. Whereas Trump, he considers Project Ukraine to be a money loser. He wants to move on from it. He's not interested in this war. But it's a mess he's got to somehow clean up, right? It's like he took over and, oh my God, he's like the janitor in the bathroom. There's vomit, crap everywhere, pee everywhere. He's got to clean up this mess that Biden left and everyone else left. So he knows he's got to clean it up some, but it's not something he likes to do. Trump would rather do other things in Ukraine. He wants to get this done as quickly as possible, wrapped up. And so he has a sense of urgency of getting done a deal on Ukraine sooner than other people are thinking. I've heard a lot of people, oh, maybe by October of this year there'll be a deal, or maybe by October there'll be a ceasefire. Who knows if Ukraine will still be existing by then. But Trump is like, no, I want to get this done quicker. And so that's going to be a thing. Definitely Trump wants to end this quick. He's got all these things when he came in planned for America. Trump came in very organized this time. He understood the problem of the deep state, all the opposition he would face. He put together a very smart team. I will give him that. Definitely with Elon Musk and JD Vance. They know the score. Steve Miller's good. There's a lot of people that understand how things work now. And they had a plan to deal with the left, deal with the Europeans, deal with the Russians, deal with Zelensky. They're just not wandering in this without a plan. Trump came in day one with a huge plan. We saw this. I mean, it's been now almost a month. It's just amazing. How much Trump has done in a month is more than the Biden regime did in 4 years. Of course, Biden was senile, but still, I mean, Trump is going quick. And I think that is really the theme that Trump has is faster. He wants things to be done fast, not lollygag around. I don't think Trump wants a huge peace process where they have, endless meetings and all sorts of negotiations that drag on and on and on. I think he wants to end it pretty quick. So, but that's not how Europeans work. They work very slow. They just, have all sorts of documentation. They got to put together a PowerPoint. They have to have a facility where they meet in. They have to have their buffet. They have to chit-chat with each other. They have to agree to meet somewhere else. Trump doesn't want to do that. He wants to get it really quick. Now, the Europeans, they had their own little conference. It's kind of really pathetic. But this Ursula, she's like the girl boss, I guess, of the EU or something. She decided to put, I thought this was like a sewing circle, or as someone else quipped, this is like the kiddies table. So while the big boys were negotiating not only peace in Ukraine, but realigning the world, you had the kiddie table here, and they were in Paris, and they were making, I don't know what they were doing, to be honest. They were saying cliches. Today in Paris, we reaffirm that Ukraine deserves peace through strength. I don't know what that means. They're throwing out slogans. Peace respects its independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity with strong security guarantees. Yeah, well, we're not going to be in that business, United States. U.S. carries its full share of military assistance to Ukraine. This is trying to push back that they're claiming, or Trump's claiming, we're doing most of the work here. You're not. Oh, that's not true. We do a lot. And at the same time, we need a surge in defense in Europe. Again, that's what I started today talking about. I think Trump would agree with that, and so would Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance. Yeah, Europe, quit being such fucking pushies and get together your armies and start defending your borders. So, but yeah, it's really irrelevant based on what's happening today. But I guess it feels good. And we have this one guy, Kellogg, and a lot of people didn't know what this guy was. He was a representative from Trump, but he wasn't at the negotiations with Putin. And this Ursula, again, she's girl boss of the EU. She's excited because she met with General Kellogg on Ukraine. And he just kind of nods and agrees with whatever she says. And that's his job. I think Trump put him there to deal with her. She's kind of a busybody, and she needs to emote and carry on. And there's that other guy that's weeping. So he sent Kellogg over to Europe to try to pacify these women and weak men. And they can lament to him how mean Trump is, how mean Putin is, how it's just not fair. And he's over there to, just try to keep them, whatever. So Trump sent Kellogg over there. They can cry to him. But the big boys are going to negotiate peace and a realignment of the world. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. So, poor Kellogg. He's got a sucky job, have to listen to this lady kvetch for, they're kvetching. So, that's his job. So, yeah, Kellogg's over there trying to keep this woman in line. And so, yeah. And part of the issue, Europe is like, man, we're going to get tough. We're going to kick ass. And this is a woman in Germany who wants to ban Elon Musk and X. This is, I guess, one of their green leaders. And I was shocked when I saw this. This should be a trigger warning. I thought she looked dead to me, but I guess theoretically she's alive. Here she is. She's the Green Party leader. This represents Europe right now. It looks like she's been in a concentration camp. I would assume she's dying of cancer, but no, she's like a vegan, and it's yeah. I guess anyone can't comment on how she looks in Germany, otherwise you'll be arrested in Germany. But this is pretty sad. This represents where Germany is now, from beautiful, strong people to she's got the woke mind virus, and now she's she used to be a real pretty woman, but she just went insane with this woke stuff, and she's pretty crazy now. So, yeah, Germany has a lot of issues. So that's her. It's kind of shocking to see that, really. But she's the one lecturing us about how things should be run. It's like they have no self-awareness. Okay, and let's see here. And the tyranny that's in Germany has just shocked a lot of Americans. In Germany 2025, this pensioner, that means retired guy, who takes care of a kid with Down syndrome, was raided by the police and prosecuted for calling Habeck not a smart head. So he called someone not a smart head, and the police raided his home, and he has a Downs kid himself. And so if you call someone that they're kind of stupid in Germany, he didn't call his kid this. He just called a politician that they're not a smart head, meaning kind of stupid. And, oh, we're not going to tolerate that. It's not like you're Muslim. We're not going to tolerate that shit. So the police broke down his door and arrested him. And these are the Euro cucks that are laughing about it with 60 Minutes. You have that fat German woman. Obviously, she's not the anorexic one. Then you have this dork laughing about their tyranny. Then you have this bureaucrat, and 60 Minutes just thinks this is great. So, yeah, I think we fought the wrong people. I think the enemy wasn't the Russians. It's these people in Europe. And it is crazy what is happening here in Europe, how they're losing their homelands. And J.D. Vance has brought that up, but London has too. London's not even English anymore. They're losing their homelands. Take a look at this. This is, I'm going to turn the sound off because I can't play the copyright, but This is London in 1990s, and this is 2025. It's turned into look some third world shithole. It's just really, really, really sad what has happened in London compared to what London used to be. And this is what happened when you don't control your border and you're trying to replace your people. And again, no one voted for this. This has been pushed on because white people are evil. We need to eliminate whiteness in white countries, so they've been doing this. And Britain has a very aggressive policy against their own citizens. They hate their own citizens, just like the Democrats in America hated their own Americans. Take a look at this right here.
So this letter was from the council, and you got this on the 12th of January. You moved in November, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you got this letter, and just spell out what this letter says.
That letter says that because the property is derelict, that they can compulsory purchase it. If there's any repairs to be done in it, they could take it off the price of the property.
Yeah.
And these properties are for migrants. That's what they want these houses for.
So they can confiscate your property forcibly in Britain and give it to these third world invaders.
Extraordinary, isn't it? And how did you feel when you got a letter? You moved into your new wonderful home, you settle down, law-abiding citizens, and you get a compulsory purchase order from the council accusing you of occupying a derelict home. How did you feel when you got this?
After paying $200,000 for it, we didn't feel very well.
No, it must have been one hell of a shock, mustn't it?
It's for the immigrant and not the indigenous population.
Well, veterans are sleeping rough.
Yeah.
16,000
In
veterans.
terrible weather.
Absolutely.
They can't get put in hotels or in a bibby stock home.
Yeah, it's interesting how like the veterans that are homeless in Britain, they don't give a shit for, meaning whites. But all these Pakistanis and others that are coming in, they put in luxury hotels. They kick British out of their own homes. Again, the governments of Europe are declared war on their own citizens. They need to pay the price too, these so-called leaders. There needs to be a Nuremberg-style trials for these so-called leaders.
There's a daylight centre charity in Wellingborough, which looks after homeless people who are sleeping rough. And they spend £630 per annum per head. Illegal migrants get paid £50,000. They get spent on them £50,000 per annum per head. And here we have the evidence of it in this letter. They wanted your lovely new home. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, this is the tyranny that they live under in Britain and Germany. And if you complain about it, they could arrest you. Because we love democracy. Yeah, it is pretty bad. That is what is happening there. Okay. So that is, let me see here. Oh, my power chat's got frozen. Hang on, let me just bring this up here. I got a power chat. Thank you. My power chat screen briefly froze, but it's back up. Damien, thank you, Damien. The governments of UK, Germany, and others need forced regime change. Yeah, non-ironically. I'd rather spend funds trying to do a color revolution instead of against Georgia or Russia. We need to liberate like Germany, France, and Britain. I mean, they're at war with their own citizens. It's incredible. And that was part of J.D. Vance's message of just the tyranny that these countries are under. No sorts of civil rights whatsoever. You don't have freedom of speech. You don't have freedom of religion. You don't even have democracy. If a political party gets too popular, they'll just ban it. Or they just will disregard the election like they did in Romania. We're like, well, we don't like the guy. He's going to win. So, yeah, we're not going to have an election. Or in Ukraine, yeah, we're just not going to have an election. It's just ridiculous, but that is where that is right now. All right. We'll just get into now some domestic stuff. I have some other foreign stuff that has happened. Well, let me do one. This is kind of foreign. It happened in Canada. it was funny. This lady I know, she's a doctor in Canada. She sent me a text. She was in this airport when this happened. There's this crazy wreck that happened in Canada. It was a Delta airliner. So let's take a look.
523, I might take that. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh no 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 no!
The plane just tipped over.
Tower, you're seeing this airplane just crash into 3. Oh my god! Oh my god!
So what happened? It was snowy weather and the plane landed and there was a burst of flame and then it tipped over and it was on upside down. Luckily it didn't really catch fire though. And no one was killed. A few people were hurt. It was really amazing. So I'm not really quite sure what happened, why it tipped over. Of course, the left was trying to blame Trump, which I don't see how what happens to Canada has anything to do with Trump. And Delta, they've doubled down on their DEI. So maybe that was a factor. We don't know. But that is pretty crazy stuff that has happened. So I've never seen a plane tip over like that and just not catch on fire or anything, just tip over. But it did. It did. And that is what happened there. So we will see. We will see what happens here. All right. A couple other things. We'll get some domestic stuff now. Elon Musk has been busy and a lot of stuff happening. But thankfully no one was killed in that plane wreck. Just really, really crazy. It's funny, that girl in Canada, she said, oh, look at this video and listen to all these people. And they were all like Indian accent in Canada. So pathetic. All right, here we go. 77% of companies are planning to reskill and upskill their existing workers between 2025 and 2030 to better work alongside AI. Well, a lot of them won't even need a job, really, because AI can replace them. This is going to be a big issue in the future. What happens when people can't sell their labor in capitalism? Andrew Yang was kind of ahead of the game on that. And while I don't really care for Andrew Yang on many things, I think this will be an issue. I know people, oh, Luddites. And Luddites were one of those people that thought having fancy farm equipment with that the 18th century would replace farm workers. What would all the people do? We can't have this new improved farm equipment. Well, it turned out it wasn't an issue because people worked in factories in the cities. But you can't assume there will always be something new that people will do. So you can't assume that if all the jobs are replaced by robotics and AI, there's going to be something else that people will be able to do. Just because they were able to do something out during the 18th century, it doesn't mean it's going to happen in the 21st century. This is going to be a big issue. And we're going to have to work with it. Governments, if you had a government that actually cared about its citizens, this could actually be a good thing. You could have a shorter work week. You could have a higher productivity. People want to have to work, say, 40 hours a week. Let's make 20 hours a week with the same pay. You could with a higher productivity, but you'd have to have a government working to help the people. And of course, that's like Nazism. You can't do that. So it should be a good thing, but it's going to be really crazy here to see if that will really work. All right. Some more stuff that Elon Musk and the Doge team has found. And it makes you wonder what the government has been doing all these years. Because you would think there's a lot of government employees, and isn't there supposed to be a government of accountability or something? They have all this bureaucracy, but it never occurred to the people that worked in these departments for years to look at stuff like this. And Elon Musk gets in there for a week or 2 weeks, and they're able to dig this all out. And you'd have to ask the people that ran these agencies, what the fuck were you doing all this time? What in the hell were you doing? Were you just creating PowerPoint presentations about diversity? Because you sure weren't managing your own environment. So he went into the Social Security database and see how many people are being paid out Social Security and their age, right? So this is reasonable. And again, Trump has made it clear he's not going to cut legitimate Social Security, and I agree with that. This hits, I'm not on Social Security, but soon I will be, and it pisses me off because my whole life I had to pay into it. I didn't have a choice. I was forced to pay into it. It's not a welfare program for people that paid into it. It's our money. That was the deal. It was a forced savings. We had to save, we get the money back, right? And if you just use it for that, by the way, Social Security runs at a surplus because it's kind of a scam because all these people have to put money into it. And then once people start taking money out, a lot of them die before they take out enough money compared to what they put in. It's just really it's a scam for the taxpayer, but it was a moneymaker for the government. But then they started to put some money away in Social Security and other things. That's another issue. But Trump said no. The legitimate people are getting Social Security. It's not being cut. But they want to see who they're paying out Social Security to, because it's going to not just retired people, but people with supposed disabilities. So like people between the ages of 0 and 9, kids, 38 million for some reason are getting Social Security benefits, and so forth. But they found this. There's one man that's over the age, is between the age of 360 and 369 that's getting paid a Social Security check. Another man is somewhere between the age of 240 and 249. There's 1,000 people that are supposedly older than 220 that are getting Social Security. Obviously, look at this, over 140. There's 3 million over, so 3, 4, let's see, I think that in the Guinness Book of World's Record, I think the oldest person ever to live document is like 120, or it's just unheard of. So if you look at 120 or older, that's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. There's like 11 million people that they should have broke the Guinness Book of World's Record. Social Security checks are being sent out to these people. Obviously, this is fraud. But these assholes at this administration, they never thought of checking into this. It's like, what the fuck were you guys doing working there? What were you doing? You obviously weren't doing your job. So there's massive fraud that's been uncovered. I want to see that 300-year-old man. I mean, if he's alive, God bless him. He still needs to get his check. But it's looking pretty dodgy to me. It's looking pretty dodgy to me. And, but this is what we see. And there's already been some pushback here. Or this one lady, I mean, she should be, I think, almost the malfeasance here. It almost needs some girl boss. The head of the Social Security Administration, Michelle King, resigns after the Doge audit reveals massive fraud. 20 million dead people are receiving checks from you. Okay, so we put all this money in Social Security. You're not supposed to still get the money after you die, obviously. And it's not just like 1 or 2 people. 20 million people that are dead are getting checks. So that means this is fraud. Someone that's not dead is taking this money and stealing it. But this bitch, and she probably needs to lose some weight, but this fat bitch was too lazy to do her fucking job, and she couldn't even figure out this was happening. She couldn't figure out this was happening. This is her one job. And she couldn't do it. Elon Musk comes in, and in a week, they uncover this. So what the hell was she doing? Obviously, she resigned, because this is embarrassing. This should be almost criminal malfeasance. And what Musk is uncovering, and we'll get into some of this. Well, let me show you right here. So she resigned. She should resign. This is embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. You have a department. This is your responsibility. Massive fraud going on, and you're clueless. And you're there for years, and you don't do shit. A guy comes in 1 week and is like, well, wait a minute. Why are we paying this check to a guy that's 300 years old? Doesn't that sound a little suspicious to you, Michelle? Well, I don't know. We were doing some diversity updates. You know, I mean, this is, and then just stuff like the way the government runs. If you guys have ever been in business, I don't know, if you ran a business like this, you would go to jail. You would just go to jail. But the government runs their business with like no controls, we're seeing. The Treasury access symbol is an identification code linking a Treasury payment to a budget line item. This is the standard accounting. So you got funds approved by Congress. If you're going to spend money against that, you got to line it up, right? This is the way private corporations work. You have what bucket are you doing it to? You have a code. This is how you can figure out that it's being spent properly. This is nothing unique. This has been done this way for over 100 years. It's just standard accounting, basic accounting. It's not exotic. It's not that complicated cost accounting. This is basic accounting of how to run a business. You're required to do this in the United States with a business. You're required to do this. But the government, fuck it all. The federal government, the task field was optional for 4.7 trillion of payments and was often left blank, making traceability almost impossible. As of Saturday, this is now a required field, increasing insight where the money is going. So now it's finally required. When you're spending money, you got to say what it's for. And Doge has found a lot of this is like, well, okay, you spent 100 billion here, but we don't have a record of what this was spent on. Yeah, we don't know. No idea. We don't know. Yeah, but there's a field here that is a category that tells you, you know, what is this administrative expense? Is this salary? Is this travel? And there's a comment field that you're supposed to fill out that explains what this is, right? Like you're taking, and we're not even passing judgment at this point. We're not even passing judgment. If you spend all this money because, and you put in the comment field, transportation, business trip to Las Vegas, to work on our yearly plan. Okay, we can see really what's going on there. Why'd you really need to go to Las Vegas to stay at a hotel and get all this paid for by the taxpayer? We're not even judging that. We're not judging that. We just want to know where it went. Tell us. Fuck, we don't know where it went. No idea. We have no way of knowing. It's just like, what? What? Could you imagine you're a chief financial officer? You're like, yeah, I don't know where it went. Is that a problem? Is that a problem? I'm just astounded. I mean, what the fuck were you guys doing in government? What the fuck were you doing? How could you run a department and have no idea where the money was being spent? No idea. And we don't even care. Man. And we're not talking like, all right. Yeah, in business, I was in business, shit, anything like over $25 they got to track. Right? If you sell over 600 on eBay in the year, I'm going through with my taxes with Sasha. It's kind of complicated, but you know, she does eBay. Not a lot of money, but it's over 600, so we got to track it. You got to track where this from. Oh, you got to track that. The government, 4.7 trillion. We don't know. We don't know. No idea. No idea. What, is that a problem? Man, I have no idea. It just astounds me. I knew they were corrupt, and I understand. Okay, maybe if it's like $100 here or there. All right, okay, I get that. I'm not trying to be the guy that nickels and dimes count every penny or count paper clips. You know, I'm like, what's this receipt for 75 cents? What did you? Okay, I'll forget that. All right, but we're talking real money here. That is like, we don't know, no idea. Why should we know about that? I don't even understand that. These people over 120 years old are probably Democrat voters. Thank you. This is a rant from Get Off My Lawn 10. I like that name. Get Off My Lawn. Yeah, a lot of Democrat dead people voted for Biden in 2020. That is for sure. Is Biden still alive? I haven't heard from him. What's Biden been up to, by the way? Sharp as a tack. I wonder what he's doing. Yeah. So anyway, there's a big panic now in Washington. Because if you don't know where the money's going, I'm not trying to be cynical, but you know, after living as long as I am, if money's not accounted for properly, that means someone's stealing part of it. Almost guaranteed. And Trump said that too. And you're right. So if you have this, $100 billion, where'd it go? I don't know. Well, it's going for something it's not supposed to go for then, right? And we're starting to see this. Eruption in bleach pit wipe hard drive, and offshore bank searches in DC. So we're tracking all the DC Google searches, and all these deep state bureaucrats are in a panic, and they're Googling BleachBit and wipe my hard drive, and how do I hide my money I stolen in an offshore bank. So honestly, and this is what has happened, there's been a lot of corruption in Washington, D.C. I mean, some of it's just incompetence, right? These people are lazy fucks. They don't do their job. Too bad Trump can't fire most of them. That's another problem. But hopefully, as you can see, either they're lazy and they're just not doing their job, which is, to be fair, probably some of it, or, they're just stupid. And there's a lot of DEI, so that could be. Or there's other component. There's a lot of criminals that are taking this money that's not accounted for, and they're shipping it to an offshore bank, in which case that's a felony. So it looks like there's a lot of guilty consciences here now with Elon Musk. That's why they're screaming, and that's the thing. And you would think, well, shouldn't it be there's a government that a department that really monitors this sort of thing? Like, hey, maybe we should have a department in the government that makes sure everyone does proper accounting practices. Well, we have that. It's called the Government Accounting Building, the Government Accounting Office Building. They're supposed to what Doge does, right? This is their one function. They employ 3,275 people. Elon Musk started with 12 kids, like 19 years old. One guy, his screen name was Big Balls. Big Balls and a couple other guys, young guys in their teens and early 20s, have figured out within a week what 3,275 people haven't done. Right? They have a whole office building. These people are supposed to check, like, okay, government offices, are you doing proper accounting? You would think they would have gone on Social Security and say, oh, let's just take a look at the payments here. Just want to do one over. And then they would say, hey, this is weird. You're paying out like 10 million people over the age of 120 are getting checks. Do you ever think about checking into this? This is, I don't know, maybe these are really super old people we don't know about. Get the Guinness Book of World Record. I want to see these people. I want to see the guy that's 320 years old. I want to see him. Be cool to talk to him, see what life was like before the Revolutionary War. Let's talk to him. But so maybe that's the case, but it just seems a little fishy. You think that somehow this would have been caught, right? But nope. So again, what does this group do? Nothing. So, well, I'm sure they keep busy doing status reports and timesheets, and they have diversity projects, and they have mission statements, but they don't do their fucking job. They don't do their job. And that's becoming apparent right now. I don't know how they can even defend that. This isn't like obscure shit either. This is just like major stuff. We're not, we can't account for this $12 that was expense. We don't know where, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking billions of dollars or trillions they can't account for. Amazing. It's just amazing. That is great. That is just really stupid. All right. Let's see what other, Trump, he's decided to do something no other president did. He is going to put the Americans first again. And this comes with tariffs. I guess I could have put this under foreign policy. 3 great weeks, perhaps the best ever. I love how Trump talks and writes. All caps. But today is the big one. Reciprocal tariffs, make America great again. So that means if Canada has or Europe has a 10% tariff on us and cars, we put it on them. If they don't like it, they can take their tariffs away. Perfect, beautiful. So that is great. And Trump has done that. So you can make, this is cool. So I'm happy with Trump doing that. And I didn't know that this is minor, but this is an important thing. This came from the First Lady. And I guess they're going to be doing White House tours again. I never knew they stopped it. I think because of the whole COVID hoax, they had to stop it for a while. But First Lady Melania Trump has announced that the White House is reopening for public tours. As it should be. We're a democracy. This is the house we pay for. And so this is good. Starting February 25th. Are excited to reopen the White House to those interested in the extraordinary story of this beautiful landmark. There's much to learn about the American presidency. And it used to always be open because this is part of our heritage. And by the way, we pay for it. It's not this is where the president lives. They have their personal residence there, but they don't own it. The White House is owned by the American people. So they historically have had tours, but they canceled that. And they're going to open that up again. So I think that's cool. I've never been to the White House tour. I would have liked to. I did see the White House once. I met a friend years ago. I went to a convention and she took me to see the White House from the outside. And the thing that struck me is how small it is. I was expecting a huge, White House. It's not that big. It's probably from years ago when they built it big, but it's not that really big. It's smaller than you think it would be. But yeah, that is the situation there. So I don't know. All right, here's Trump on the Gulf of America and trolling the media some.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please. Right?
I love how you put her in her place. We haven't asked you to speak yet. I think she got kicked out of the White House too. That was great. So Trump, he expects some decorum, but he's been like the most accessible president. I mean, it seems like every day he's taking questions from the press. Remember Biden? They can only do that like once every 6 months. They had to have the questions pre-planned. They had to write out his answers. Come on, Biden, try to read this. You're going to call on this lady and you're going to read this. And then he would read this. Biden says, I mean, he was just so clueless. It was embarrassing. So it's good to have a guy in that is going to, it's good to have a president that can actually deal with the press. So, and we do. We have a president that is of sound mind and dealing with it. And let's see here. The other thing they have, this is kind of like a COVID thing, is similar, but it had to do with chickens. And one of the reasons that egg prices are so high, and this started with the Biden administration, they decided to do like a genocide on chickens. So the prices of eggs is high because they have been euthanizing chickens, killing them, euthanizing them. It's not like they put them in it's not like Canada, they put you in some machine and kill you. They just chop your head off. To stop the spread of bird flu. Has the spread of bird flu actually stopped or even slowed down? No, of course not. But they've managed to kill a lot of chickens. So there's that. Yeah, that's just how the government rolls. They don't know how to do anything except to kill everything. So that's why hopefully they will stop killing all the chickens and we can get some cheaper eggs again. All right, one last thing before we do our video to end the show. And thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. Be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, tonight we have our roundtable. And here we go. What a cursed image. So all these so-called, I guess, conservative cucks are, I don't know if they're conservative, Principles First Summit. And there's Asa Hutchinson. I got a kick out of this. Here's John Bolton. Talk about a bunch of losers here. Asa Hutchinson, he's a principled conservative. He used to be the governor of Arkansas, and he's so principled that the legislature in Arkansas banned doing sex changes on children. Obviously, you shouldn't allow that. Guess who vetoed it? Yeah, Asa. Good Christian man. He wanted to see little boys get their dicks cut off because they're trapped in the wrong body. Thankfully, the legislature overruled his veto. But Asa, he's a conservative cuck, sellout, Israel firster. Boy, what a bunch of losers. This won't attract any protests from the left, though, at all. I don't know what their principles are. I guess put Israel first, have responsible children's sex change, get into more wars. I guess that's what they're about. And to lose in a dignified manner. That's what they're all about. All right. So there we are there. All right. We'll just do a end up here on this snowy day in Arkansas. I always like to end with a doggy video or a cat video. And this is a doggy gets a new friend. It's like, what the hell's this? New puppy. It looks just like me. Look how the adult dog's like, I'm kind of scared. What the hell's happening? Aw. I love how they get the adult dog's like, this is a crazy little dog. This is funny. Oh, you gotta love dogs and puppies. Gotta love dogs. So that was cute. All right, guys, it's been a good show. And let's see, tonight, roundtable, join my Substack, be part of that at 7 p.m. Tomorrow, we have the RAMZPAUL show at 11. And in the evening, we're going to start the new show with Z-Man. I'm not sure what to call it. I'll have to figure that out. But we'll start that show. I hope you can attend there. That's going to be fun. It's going to be 1 hour at 7 p.m. Z-Man always has wonderful insights. And yeah, boxers, they're great dogs. I've heard they're great dogs. I never had one, but that was cute. And guys, thank you so much for being here. So we'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.